Okie dokie. So we're going to be turning this 3D printed tattered wall um, into something like this. Um, and I'll show you the process that I use. It's pretty darn quick, and most of what I try to do is pretty quick and streamlined because I have to do it repetitively. Because you know I sell the stuff, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. But you'll notice that this is printed in black. I want to start out by saying first that you don't have to print this in black. I just happen to have a black roll that I needed to get rid of, and it works out great for something like this. You'll see why in a minute. But if you only have white, you can still print this in white, but then you're going to need to go ahead and go over it in like black rattle can or something like that, because the base ultimately does need to be black for the best contrast in the lines and things like that. A couple of things that you're going to need are some cheap chip brushes. These are inexpensive. I usually buy them by the box on Amazon. They're way less expensive doing it that way than going to Home Depot, or certainly cheaper than going to Michael's. Well, they'll charge you, $1.50 or $2 for a 39-cent brush. You'll need a few of these, and how many of these you need will kind of just be determined by how many colors you're going to use. One is going to be for washing, another one is going to be for dry brushing, and another one is going to be for stippling. And so you'll need your basic colors that you're going to use. I try to keep it simple. I'll do probably 3 colors on here. I've got some various shades of brown, which is covered by the burnt umber. I've got some different color, various shades of the raw sienna. I think this is raw sienna. Yeah, raw sienna. And you can see giving me some highlights and different, values in here, some different depth. Then I've got some whitewash in there also. And then the black print shows through the bottom in the cracks and crevices. So you really just want to keep this simple, man. It's just not too much to it. My brain tends to overcomplicate things in a ridiculous fashion, and I have to step away from things for a minute to redefine the simplicity of how it should be. So we'll get this out of the way. I tend to use whatever the heck I pick up, but I like to use these cups here, and you just buy these on Amazon. You get like a gazillion of them. I think they're called mouthwash cups, or pill cups or something, but I think they're mouthwash cups. They're just nice because you can fill them with washes, you can rinse them out and reuse them for the most part. You want to have enough of these to correspond to the different colors that you have. I mean, you can use cottage cheese cups. You can use whatever the heck you have. Just don't use coffee cups and then accidentally drink the coffee thinking it was, or drink the wash thinking it was coffee because you're still asleep. Not that I've done that, but it's quite possible. Another deal you want to have here is pretty much just 3 different size brushes. You can see this one's wider, less wide, certainly less wider, and a different shape. And the reason is because you want to be able to go in and add your washes. You'll see here what I'm talking about. You want to go over your wash areas in a smaller and smaller, more defined sort of rat tail stroke to get some of the nice, different colors in there, and different shapes and textures by using the edge of the brush. So I'll show you that in a little bit. Flocking on this, I pretty much just, I used a couple things, but this was one of the primary things. Let me just get this on Amazon. Once again, way less expensive than Michael's. As most things in most places tend to be. less expensive than Michael's. But flocking adds a nice touch to go in and just cover seams and add that extra little bit of depth to the piece. These are an adhesive static grass patch that I buy that are really pretty cool, man. These are pretty fun. I mean, you can just pop them anywhere you want, man. They're really cool. So that's enough. Oh, one other thing you're going to need is where's the rattle can? Rattle can paint. Can't tell what this color is because I spray over the top of them all the time because I just don't. I'm just not that clean. This is stone gray. Now you can use, probably if you wanted to use some sort of darker gray primer, I would try to keep it light, not white, but certainly lighter than something, for example, like this. This is dark. While you can do this, it's not going to give you the total effect that you want. So you want somewhere in between this and white without going completely white, if that makes sense. What we want to do, and I'll try to take you outside and show you, it's a little early in the morning over here, but we don't want to be right on top of this. We want to stand, maybe 1.5 feet away and dust it on there. We want to have some of the black show through. We don't want to change the color of this whole thing from black to gray. We want to allow, if that makes sense, we want to allow the black to be able to show through in the cracks and things like that. So the further you are away, the more powdery this will fall on the piece and allow the black to still show through and give you the contrast that you're looking for. So this here is kind of the look we're after, and you can see pretty much how I stated it, 1.5 feet or 2 feet away or so, and just let the mist fall onto the model. It gives it sort of a stippled look, and it definitely allows the darker cracks to shine through. And once again, just to recap, you don't want to change the color of this with the aerosol paint, with the rattle can. You just want to go in here, like I say, and make a light dusting over the top of it, because we need those darker colors to shine through. All right, so I should have specified earlier when I said the 3 colors. The 3 colors I were referring to for the browns were actually for the wood, but you do need colors for the stone also. You can do the stone first or the wood first. It doesn't really matter. I think I'll do the stone first on this one. And once again, you want probably 3 colors. If you're just keeping with a, color palette like this, you've got some darker grays, some whites, maybe some beiges in there, and then you've got your base color here that already acts as a color itself. And so the first, since I've got a light color down already, I'm going to go ahead and these are some colors that I have. I wish Apple Barrel made bigger bottles of this stuff, man. I don't know why they make these small bottles of this, the good colors. But I've got what's called a pavement, and then I've got a dark blue gray, and these are really nice colors. Got elephant gray also, which is nice. Once again, I don't know why they make only small bottles and then they make big bottles of the stupid pewter gray. You could mix up a color similar to this, I guess. But let's go through with a little elephant gray. We're going to kind of go from light to darker on this. So since we've already started with a light base here, so go like this. So we can actually, I'm going to lie. I'm going to go ahead and go through with a pavement gray first. Squirt a little bit on the deal there, and it's not going to take much. We'll go ahead and take it on there, brush it off, and once again, we're not aiming to change the color of this. We're aiming just to add some spots of random darker shades. If that makes sense. And, okay. So, kind of just, you can see how this starts to, as you dry brush it, we don't want the light to disappear. We want that to stay there. So, go ahead and just get in here and add a little bit of this color to it, very lightly. And you don't have to cover the whole thing. You can do some spots more than others. Okay. This side is a little darker than the other side, so you know we can start with a different color on this side if we want. It doesn't really matter. The trick is real light application. We're not changing the color. We're just adding patches of other colors. See, I'm not going every spot. I'm leaving some spots untouched. I'm leaving them organic. No, this is fine here. We don't have to really add any here because we've got some dark values already over here, and this is fine too. So, okay. Now this is where you can use another brush if you want, or you can just go ahead and brush that off. Make sure it's pretty good with that color off of it. Then we can come over and let's do a little bit of this blue gray. I like this blue gray. You can tell because the bottle's almost empty. It's a good color. Whoa, hey, there you go. It's always been a runny color too, man, I tell you. Okay, so but just in random spots, okay? The spots that we didn't hit with the other, with the pavement, we're going to go through and hit with this blue-gray. Leave some nice highlight spots in there. Leave some brighter areas in there. It's okay. We're just adding a little bit of depth with the blue. Same thing over here. Make sure there's still some on there. And there's barely any paint on here, but that's the idea. And I'm just It sounds like I'm going really to town on it, but I'm really just pushing very lightly with just the very tips of the bristles. Still a little bit of gray, regular gray on here. That doesn't sound bad. Globulous gray. Okay. It's a new color, globulous gray. Lighten some of this up just a little bit. Let's do this. We'll do what's called like stippling, and we'll go back through with a darker color like the one we started with here, this pavement. And what we'll do is we'll just dab some just like this. And the effect that we kind of want is, we want this effect here, you can see on here. See how it leaves speckles and spots? That's what we're after. Okay, so I'll show you. And you can just use the brush straight up and down. Don't drag or pull. Okay, and it might be hard to see in the light, but it'll show up here. It might be hard to see, but just really going through and speckling. Straight up and down. Okay, I might put a little bit more on there. A little bit more. So, once again, see that? Maybe you don't. There you go. That's what we're after, those speckled spots. And what that does is it begins to give you the speckly looks of crevices and sort of paint on a texture that makes it look like it's a rough surface. You just don't want too much of it. You can do this with other colors too, like lighter beiges and lighter browns to make it look like there's, you know, different minerals and things in the rocks. I like the grays and the whites, personally. Yeah, we're getting a nice texture with that. And I'll show you in better light here shortly. We're going to do this with a couple different colors. It's entirely too much. We'll just use a little bit of the brush. or the whole brush, whatever. Don't listen to me. This is clean white out. Just used it yesterday, car, right? Well, you know. There we go. Clean that rascal off. Loads over yonder. And we'll go ahead and, hey, where'd my good brush? There it is. Now white is a good way to ruin your piece. So when you think you've got enough, take a little bit more off. The first thing I want to do on this is dry brush over some highlight areas, and then I'll stipple. So definitely make sure your hands have no white on them. So this is just a quick dry brush. Once again, when you think you have enough, take a little bit more off. Okay? And then a little bit more because it's white. Okay? And we're just going to hit the highlighted edges of this. We're going to hit the edges to create some highlights, I should say. Okay? Edge of the wall itself. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe I got real passionate with taking it off. But it really will instantly mess up your piece. Really, really lightly. I want these edges right here. A little bit more. The other thing about white is it dries really fast. I don't know what it is with white paint, but it really dries quickly. We're going to stipple with white also, but right now I just want to hit these ridges and create some highlights and stuff in here. And the lighting is bad right here, so you'll see this when I'm completely done with it. I'll put it in better light. But now let's go ahead and take the brush, and we just want to create some stipples on here. Let's first go over a little bit more with this color here, and do some bigger stipples. I've got some really small stipples down, but I want some bigger stipples. If that makes sense. If that makes sense. Real small and real like concentrated. We'll go in and we'll not over where the paint is wet still, obviously. Try to focus like on individual stones as opposed to globally dry brushing. And white dries quick, like I said, so see that? That's what we're after right there. Just enough to give it a little bit of contrast. You don't want to do the whole thing. And now it looks like a Milky Way galaxy. Get a little bit more on there. The white dries quick. There we go. Trust me, it looks good. I'll show you when I get in better light. Let me put a little bit more white paint down. That white paint goes quick. Just most of it dries. Let's dip a little bit more on, and then let's take it off. You just don't want to put a blob of white paint down. Make sure these bristles are pretty separated. And same thing. It's like cutting hair. You can always take more off, but you can't put it back. So you don't want to start off too saturated of a brush. See, that's all we're after right there. If you get a little bit more on there than you think you'd like, I mean, you can just go through and knock it back with another brush. Like that. Okay. So, it's easy to get carried away with white. But you need white in here to contrast all the dark. That looks pretty good. That blob of gray looks like shit. So we'll add a little white to it. Okay, now with the white that's left on here, just go ahead and make sure it's not too excessive. And once again, we'll hit these edges really nicely and bring the edges out. See how it's hitting the tops there? That's really nice. Now you don't want to dry brush over the top of what you just stippled, so I'm really just hitting the edges right here. Because that would be like counterproductive. The next part of this is the wood. And the wood is a little bit more involved. It's easy enough, but it's just a little bit more involved, that's all. I recommend a hair dryer. I have a heat gun and I just set it on low. And you'll see why here in a little bit. It just helps speed up the drying. You want to start out with your cups. The base color of this wood, for me, you know, in the first one, in the first model I did, I used a burnt umber as a base wash. You know, we could still let's try something just different. Since I already did a burnt umber on that one, we could do a burnt sienna. Let's try that. Try burnt sienna. And this is already a wash. I've got water in here already because it was a paint bottle that was spent, and I just wanted to get the residual out of there. So anyway, let's pour a little bit in there. And it's not good to pour it right over the model because that could turn out badly. Want the water going, so let's pour some water in there. And there's no real scientific blend of how much. I want to retain the color, and if it ends up being too thin, you can always add more paint or just add more layers of wash. But the thing is, I don't want to start off too dark. Once again, because I want the darkness. I want the darkness to show. I want the darkness of the black PLA to show through here. Even though it's not black anymore, it's still, the recesses are darker than the higher spots, and so I want to keep that dark. So what we'll do is we'll go through here and mix this up a bit, sort of take it off, drain a little bit off. It's not good to do it right over the model, but I have bad habits. The other thing is here we want to take and make sure that it's not going to be a sopping brush and sop all over the place. It's not biscuits and gravy. So let's do a coat on here. Get down into the ridges. It's like this. Another reason spray paint is great here is because it's so durable. You can put the water over the top of it and you're not gonna bother it. Okay. We don't want it sopping and running down the sides onto the area that we just painted. So let's plug the heat gun in, or the hair dryer, and you'll instantly see the value in this. So to spare you all the heat gun noise, this is what you'll end up with once you put the heat gun on it, or the hair dryer, whatever you have. Another note on this, once you put the wash on there, don't move this. Like, don't let it go up and down. Don't move it to the side, because what you'll get is you'll get uncontrolled drips and blobs. You don't see any here because I keep it flat. I brush it on. I actually dip it in the cup, then I sort of press the excess out. Then I press the excess out even more on a paper towel, and then I just go down with the grain of the wood. I just go straight down. I don't go like this. I just go straight up and down. What would that be? Perpendicular to the model orientation. So you have this dry. Now at this point you would do all the sides. You have to determine here, is this light enough for the base, the overall tone of the wood? Is it going to be light enough? Is it too light or is it too dark? I think it's going to be light enough. We've changed, we've toned down the grays on the top. They could go down a little bit more, and they will when we start using some of the smaller brushes. But for now, we'll go ahead and go over the entire piece front and back and change the gray to what the ultimate lightest color of the faded wood will be, if that makes sense. And that's another reason that the gray is important here. It creates the color of the stone, but it also creates the color of the faded wood. If I just washed over this in black, you wouldn't even see it. It would take so many coats to even barely see it. So the gray really helps in that. And faded wood is different, shades and tones, values, whatever, of grays. So that being said, let's go ahead and continue on with the other sides. And do that. Okay, so once we have all the sides done, and this is done with just, the same brush, the same amount of water in the mixture, I just went over and basically just covered it one time with the brush, just to change the original color of the gray, to mute that down, to hide it, to let a little bit of it still show through, and create sort of this effect here. Now what I want to do here is, now that we're done for now with this big brush, we're going to go in with some of the smaller brushes using the same wash. I haven't added anything to this. We're just going to go in, and I may actually use, instead of this brush, I may use this brush. We're going to go in and just make sure the paint is stirred off the bottom. Okay. And I'm going to go in on the bottom using the side of the brush, and I'm just going to follow some of these curves up, okay, at different lengths. And if you get it on the ridges too, the high points, it's okay. It doesn't really make a big difference. But don't do this. Don't paint it like this. Go up with the direction of the wood, okay? And what we're doing here is creating a darker to lighter blend with the same wash, just adding more coats in a more controlled. I want to talk about the hair dryer. We're adding more coats of the same wash, but just in a more controlled way. This is like, think of this as more global. This is more the entire surface area. This is more of a refined local area. And so that's what we're doing. The same wash, just in a more controlled, precise area to build up the how dark it is. So. Okay, so you can see the edges, and you can see it once the paint dries, it becomes a lot more translucent. That's the word. I'm looking for. The older I get, the more words I forget. But it's more translucent, and so you can still see through it. And when you just put it on, it's sort of an illusion. It doesn't give you the correct look. And so once it dries, you can see where you're really at with this stuff. I like the darkness in there. We're going to add a little bit more darkness. I don't think you can, ever. And you can go even, the first ones we went down a little bit further. This ones we can just go a little less. Okay. Let that dry. And once again, we'll do this all the way around, just on the tops and bottoms. And I'll be right back, because you don't want to watch that whole process. Trust me, it's not fun. So you can see that all I've done with this single cup of wash, I haven't added more water to it or anything. All I've done is what you've seen in the video. I've brushed it over all four sides. I went back over certain areas with a smaller brush and more in the grooves, more localized. And this is where we're at with it. I've got some nice darks fading and transitioning into lighter areas. You can see that it's not all one tone. It's definitely got, different values of brown going through here. It's the same color brown, just different densities or values or tones, whatever you want to call it. But the main point is that it's all with one single color. So what I want to do now is go in with a little bit of whitewash. This is a whole bottle of, it was a bottle of white, and there was still some in there, and I added water to it, and I just created a whitewash with it. And the thing about whitewash is, like white paint, it's really powerful, especially on a really vividly colored surface. What I want to do here is really even, we started with a global application, then we did a more localized one, then we did, did I use this one? No, I didn't throw that one to the side. I used that one to open my paint. We did global, we did more localized, and now we're going to do really super localized by just, now this is, I'm going to dilute this a little bit, like a little bit like that. And the thing about white is it's tricky, man. It will fool you. You'll think it's diluted enough, and then it won't be. What I want to do is I just want to take this small brush and just go in random bits of this wood and brush it into the groove. And just create a random bit of whitewash in different bits of this groove. It might not look like it's going to do a lot, but I want to show you here once it dries. And we'll know when this dries if I diluted it enough or too much. Right now it looks like it definitely diluted it enough. You don't want this going everywhere. like I said, you pretty much want it to go where you put it. And we'll go ahead and draw this real quick. Keep it level, don't let it run. And we'll slowly start to build up some areas. And this is what it looks like. It might not look really pronounced or like really dramatic, but when you photograph this and you start to mess around with your clarities and your, different sliders in Lightroom or curves adjustment layers in Photoshop or Camera Raw, whatever you use, these little details really add that randomness to the piece that make it look not so uniform and have little bits of eye-catching detail. And that's important. So we'll go through and do a couple more passes. Once again, just really keeping it in the line and building it up just a little bit. If the sun was up here, it'd be hitting the top of this. See how I make some long and some short. Okay, we'll try that. And we'll go around and I'll do this to the whole, all the different sides of the wood, and then I'll show you the result. And this is all I'm going to use. This is 1 cup. Reapplying the layers or just doing a single pass, depending on how, how pronounced I want the effect to look. So, notice I have some different static grass. These are like adhesive patches, and they're really cool. You can just get these on Amazon. I'll try to link it in the description of the video. They're just adhesive. When you're putting them on a rough surface, I typically add a little bit of tacky glue on the bottom side of them. These are great bits of super tiny detail that just add that extra little pop to the piece. Okay, and I've got this. I don't know what this is. Sheet moss, whatever. But it's like Spanish mossy type stuff. But what I do is I crumble it up really dusty and really powdery so that it's got really random bits of sizes of pieces in here. And so I have that. And what we'll do is make a mess. And then I use some of this. So a combination of kind of 3 things. You don't have to do it with 3 things. You don't have to use the patches. If all you've got is like turf builder or some Spanish moss, you can totally just use that. And I've got an old junky glue bottle here that I don't have a lid for anymore, and I usually just take a little bit and I squirt it out onto the cardboard or whatever scrap that I'm using there, and that'll be enough. That's precisely measured. And then I put the makeshift lid back on and shove it on the shelf. Okay, and then I find a junky brush. I buy like 500 of them at a time from Amazon for like 10 bucks. And what I'll do is, in the seams where the wood meets the stone, I'll just sort of hide the seam there with a little bit of flocking. I'll go in here and just stipple it in. Doesn't need to be a thick, big old saturated sopping bit of glue either. Okay, and you can go in there with a couple different things. I mean, you can go in there with the powdery stuff, whatever you want. Salt Bay style. Sprinkle that rascal in there. Okay. Tap it back off. Okay. Hide that glue. It'll dry clear, so it's no big deal. And, And all it does is it adds a little something in there. You can do it like that on one side, then you can take the same glue and you can go in here on the bottom and you can take a little bit of the thicker stuff over here and push it down in here, push it into the glue, let some fall back off, brush it off, and now you've got just a different look to than the one side. You know, and you can just totally mix the stuff up however you want. And bring this out just a little bit over here. So we've got something to blend in right there, and it doesn't look like it's a straight line. Press that on. There we go. Lightly brush it off. And now we've got something that doesn't look so uniform up the side there. And there really is no real right way to do this, I don't think. You can take a little bit up here. Bring it up just a little bit. A little bit around the edge. Okay, same thing. Look at that. Well, why not? That's how I do it, man. Press that in there and on there. Knock the extra back off. Got a little flocking on there. Same thing on the other sides. Look at that mess. What the hell's the matter with you, Mike? That's normal. And over here, this is great for if you missed spots with painting. You can hide them. If you've got a bad area of a print, you can hide it. It's perfect. Which nothing of this model is really in that category, but could be, you know. Grind this stuff up. Press that down in there. And then just brush it back just a little bit. Okay, something like that. try to get the big strings and the big pieces off because it doesn't scale right, it doesn't look right if it's too big. So I try to be mindful of the bigger pieces that could take away from the effect. And I think we're good right there. We could put a little bit down in here. I kind of left this edge sharp when I modeled it. I should have probably added a little bit of jagginess to that edge, but I didn't. So it's a great way to hide that also. And I really knock the excess off because you just don't want, every time you pick this up, there to be eternally falling flakes of foliage. So, and once you spray this with an aerosol sealer, it will pretty much top coat that stuff and keep it on there also. So, it's pretty cool. Okay. And in an effort to not be so wasteful, I will put this back in the bag after I create a little tiny funnel. I will slide it in the bag. There we go. Okay. Now, we'll take a little bit of, I'll take one of these bigger ones and I'll just pull it up off of there. And you can see it's got a little patch on the bottom. I'll just add a little bit of tacky glue to that. Stick it where I want it. It can be right in the center, it can be right on the side. Doesn't really matter because it's your piece. Okay? I mean, you can go crazy wild with it, man. Put another piece on here. Something like that. Then I tend to stick with threes, things of three. We'll do a smaller piece here. And we can do one, coming out the side of the knot on the wood here. There you go. I might have got a little passion with the glue, but that'll brush off. Remember, there's two sides to this, so you can do it on the other side too. There's not two knots on this side, but you could put one, heck, we could just put one coming out of the wall right there. Look at that. Perfect. So you've got two sides, and each of the sides will be a little bit different. I mean, just something cool. Okay, so we'll put these rascals away. You want to use them all? So here's the one we just painted. I mean, hopefully you can see all the little speckles and stippling effects with the paintbrush. See if we can make that focus a little better. A lot of little steps, but in the end they all make it worth it. Here's the one I painted before the video. Different color, same effect on the rocks and the stone, just different color wood. Just however you choose to do it. But hopefully this gives you some direction and insight and how to start on your own.